What's up YouTube, Honeybee here, bringing you a new character guide and combo tutorial, and in this video we're going to be going over Frost's Ice Machine tournament variation. As per the stream I was having today, once again, huge shout outs to all you guys for subbing to the stream. I really appreciate you guys. We had a goal, and the goal was to make a character guide if we reached the subscriber goal, and we did. So thank you guys so much for subscribing and supporting me as I try to get through the whole YouTube demonetization thing and really try to push the Twitch. But with that said, let's get into this guide, and we're going to start by looking at Frost's main moves. So if we're going to be looking at Frost, we're going to want to look at a lot of her normal attacks. So she has a 9 frame down 1, an 8 frame down 3, and a 12 frame down 4. Now these moves, generally speaking, are moves you always want to check for every single character whenever you're breaking them down. The down 1 has some decent range on it. As you can see, she can hit her from right at this range, which is pretty solid. The down 3, actually, the range is kind of bad, honestly. It whiffs a lot. It's just asking to be low profiled half the time, so I don't really resort to the down 3s very much when I'm playing Frost. I will have a little bit of a disclaimer here that this is a beginner guide, so don't expect the highest level of knowledge. This is just for me playing the character for a couple hours, playing matches for a couple hours, and this is generally my take on Frost and what I've come up with. Another thing is her down 4. Now her down 4 is pretty strong. You can see it has pretty good range on it. As with any move, if you cancel it into, for example, this, that is going to be very punishable if blocked, but sometimes you can get away with it. I would use it mainly as just a poking tool to try to keep space. 12 frames is decently fast for the range that you have with this move, so you can use it to annoy your opponents as much as possible. Some other moves that are very important that you're going to want to use for Frost is her back 2. Her back 2 is a mid with very good range. You can hit your opponent basically from the start of the round, that range. You can also follow up the string, which is 2-2-1-2, and it ends in an overhead at the end. We're going to look at all the strings later, or like the important strings, but just keep that in mind. It's a pretty good range mid. She also has her forward 2, which is a high. The range on this is actually pretty crazy. You can jump back and then go forward and still be able to hit them, but do note that this is a high attack, so it can be ducked and it can be punished on recovery. So use it sparingly, but you can couple it with the fact that you have this far-reaching mid to try to keep opponents on their toes. If they do block this move, you're neutral on block, which is a pretty good thing, but as I said before, it is a high, so use that carefully. She has 2 other moves that I would say are very useful. One of them being her back 3, which is a low. This is her main combo starter. You can go into something like this for an easy 23% meterless combo. She also has her back 1 too, or back 1, which is a mid. It's 16 frames, I believe. Yeah, 16 frames, and the full string looks like this. So those are like her main stuff. She has a sweep as well, which is her back 4, which seems actually pretty decent. It's safe on block, and it's fairly fast with decent range on it. So you can kind of use that as well. But for the most part, you're not really going to be blocking overhead against Frost because she doesn't really have any overhead mix-up options at the beginning. She only has overheads in some of her strings. Now let's look at some of her combo attacks. Some of her combo attacks that you're going to want to be using a lot are her back 2 because it has really good range on it, and you can do back 2-2-1-2. Now the thing about back 2-2-1-2 is that it is negative 15 on block, so it is very punishable, and you really don't want to go using this move unless you are doing it as a counter or a punish, at which point you'll use your Crushing Blow. But we'll go over Crushing Blows a little bit later. But generally speaking, do not use this move if you see that your opponent blocks the beginning of it, because you're going to be punished at the end. It's a negative 15 on block. You could try to get away with it and hope that they are just not blocking overhead, but generally I don't advise people to play that way. Another move she has is her back 1-2. Now this could be used in footsies, but I find that whenever I'm playing Frost, I don't really use this that much, and the reason being is that it's a pretty slow move. 16 frames really isn't that fast, and it has a fair amount of recovery on it, 41 frames if you just do the first part. If you do the second part as well, very, very slow. There's a lot of recovery on these moves, so generally speaking, I don't really use it in footsies too much. But if I'm close by the opponent, maybe after a poke, then you can go for something like that if you're trying to establish pressure. But for example, her down 1, if you hit someone with that and you try to lead a follow-up with that, you could hit confirm this into this move, and you can get a full combo from there. So you can use it more so as like a counter poking tool or something to stop people from mashing, but don't really go in with this in footsies because it doesn't have the greatest range on it. Generally speaking, it'd be better to go in with the moves like her back 2-2 or 4-2 and using her down 4 to try to control that footsie range. Back 2-2. As I was saying before, back 2-2 is a really good footsie tool, and then one of the main reasons it's good is because back 2-2 is safe on block, although there is a gap that can be flawless blocked. Back 2-2 has a gap right there. It can be flawless blocked and punished. I'm going to control Devorah and show you guys what I mean. For example, if you do back 2-2 and try to block afterwards, Devorah can, or any character, can flawless block and punish you for even using this string. So it is a good string, but there's a little bit of a gimmick there because your opponent could block and flawless block and kill you for it. So you might have to cut it short sometimes. The main string that I would say is very, very useful that you want to be using quite often is this string. Her back 3-2, back 3-2, down 1. This is like her main combo starter. This is her main move that she can use to get stuff going. It doesn't have the greatest range on it, and it's not that fast, but it's 16 frames. It's also a -13 on block, so it is punishable, but generally people are going to be not trying to punish this because they expect you to follow up with that. But yeah, you want to use this a lot, and you want to hit confirm it. If you see that those first 2 hits hit, you can follow up with that down 1, back 3-2, down 1, and then you can follow up with an easy little combo. If it's blocked, for example, if it's blocked, you're gonna want to block confirm that into a different move. For example, this move, or you could actually just cut it short because the string on its own is -5. Also, one thing to note, which is something a little bit interesting, is if you do hit someone with this and you go into this move, it is a little bit of a side switch. So you could do something like this, put your opponent in the corner, and then now all of a sudden you have advantage in the corner, and then you can follow up with a combo. But we'll go over combos later on. Now let's take a look at her special moves. So in the Ice Machine variation, she has access to a couple different special moves. Glacier Calving is one of them, where she does this, down 1, and it sends out this little barrier that absorbs 1 projectile hit. As you can see, if Devorah does a bug, it'll be absorbed. Now if Devorah were to send out 2 bugs, it would only stop 1 of the bugs. So this is only good for 1 projectile, so keep note of that. If she amplifies it, you'll see that it's still only going to absorb 1 projectile. What the Amplify actually does for Frost is instead of making it travel slowly, the Amplify will make it travel quicker, so you could potentially walk behind it. But from what I've experienced, it doesn't seem to be that useful to Amplify, and sometimes it doesn't seem to be that useful to use this unless you can really actually control the Zoning War, at which point you can use this coupled with some of your other special moves that I'll go over. She has a core discharge, so this is the down back 2, and you can send these projectiles at different ranges: a close range, medium range, and a far range. They're all high attacks, and they do 7% damage if they hit. They're pretty decent projectiles, nothing too crazy about them. They're just okay, in my opinion. She has another projectile, which is back forward 3. This is another okay projectile. It's fairly slow. It has quite a bit of startup, so if you ever do it against a teleporting opponent, that's super risky. But against an opponent that doesn't have access to that, it could be good, because if it hits them, you get almost 8%, which is okay. And if you amplify it, they turn into 4 additional mid attacks that can be pretty useful. So sometimes it's okay to use this as well, with this and with this, to try to get your opponent out. Another attack she has is the blade spin attack. Shades of Try and Rush, Aquaman, and Justice, but it's not quite nearly like that. The good thing about this attack is it's actually safe on block when you do it normally, and when you amplify it, it's only -7, meaning it's pretty much safe in this game. So you can kind of use this at the end of block strings to try to get some chip damage, but you'll see that the chip damage really isn't that high. As you see, that was 1% chip for that move. If I amplify it, she's getting about 2.25%, so a little bit over 2% for an amplified thing, and about 1% for that. So you could do something like, if you see your opponent is blocking this, you can cancel into that for the free chip damage, and you're safe on block afterwards. You could do something like that into it, or you could do something like that into it as well. You could use these moves into it, but just do note that it is a high, so it can be ducked and punished based on what attacks you're leading into. They might not be able to actually duck it though. And she has a couple other moves as well. Cyberhead doesn't seem that useful to me from what I've experienced with this move. It's a down back 3. It seems to be used as like an anti-air, but it doesn't seem like that useful to be using that way when you could just like down to someone instead. But you can use it as an anti-air. You can use it to extend combos in the corner, but from what I've experienced and looked at, it seems like you can get actually more damage if you don't use it. So not too sure how useful this move actually is. She has these other 2 moves as well. Auger Lunge, which is backward 4, which is a good combo ender. You can get some pretty beefy damage for it. You have a combo with it. And she also has her Micro Burst, is what it's called. Yeah, Micro Burst is down back 4, and if you amplify it, they stay in a freeze state, and you can actually follow up with a combo. Now let's take a look at her Crushing Blows. Frost has some pretty standard Crushing Blows. Like, she has the standard down 2 Crushing Blow, which is like that. You can follow up with something like that for an easy 310 meterless damage off of it. She has throw Crushing Blows as well, which is always nice. She has a forward throw and a back throw Crushing Blow. So I'm just going to set myself to control Devorah and have Frost set to throw forward and throw forward again. Now if I'm controlling Devorah and I fail the escape the first time and get thrown again, now it's going to Crushing Blow, and it's going to do 31% damage. Nice chunk of damage. And it'll be very similar if she does the back throw as well. She also has 2 more Crushing Blows, which can be useful, but they're just okay in my opinion. The back 2-2-1-2 is a Crushing Blow, and it triggers if this combo attack is a counter or a punish. So for example, if I do that, it'll Crushing Blow, and you can follow up with a little bit of damage. Now the problem with this is that you don't really get that much damage mid-screen. You kind of need to be in the corner to get anything substantial off of this. Like, that's about all you can do mid-screen for that, from what I've seen. And then her other Crushing Blow is Auger Lunge, and triggers if you have landed 3 amplified auger lunges this match. So the requirement for it is pretty hefty to have to do 3 amplified ones of this, but it is doable. Like, you can certainly get it done in a match. It's just not the greatest in terms of like the requirement of actually having to do this. It's kind of silly to have to do this sometimes. But yeah, when you get it the 3rd time, you'll see the Crushing Blow, and similar to the other Crushing Blow, you really can't get that much off of it. And if you do something like that, you could get like a back 2 into it for a Crushing Blow and get like 230 damage, which is like 23%. So considering that you have to spend 3 bars of meter just to have access to this Crushing Blow, mid-screen is not going to be that good. In the corner, it has quite a bit of pushback, so it's kind of hard to follow up with the combo, and you might find that you'll drop it a lot. But it is there, and you can use it, but it's not the greatest in my opinion. As far as Frost goes, that's the main stuff that we're going to go over. Her Fatal Blow is a high attack that's a projectile that hits from full screen. I'm not going to actually show the full Fatal Blow animation right now. We'll show that in a combo later, but you'll see that that's what it looks like. So that's kind of what we're looking at when we're looking at Frost. General gameplay breakdown for you guys. That's kind of what your game plan is going to be. You're going to want to use your down 4s to kind of control space. Use your back 2. Don't commit into that unless it's on a counter hit or a punish, because otherwise you're going to want to go into this move. One thing that I also wanted to note is if you hit confirm into this, you'll see that you can get a full combo afterwards, but not if you're hitting them from max range. As you can see, if you're from max range, you actually can't combo into this, so you're going to have to confirm that into something like this. So just make note of that. You have to be close to them in order to actually land a full combo. And if you're not close to them, you're going to want to go into a different move, because this is not going to work if you're back here and using the moves at max range. Also, remember you have your forward 2, which is a pretty good move as well, but use it sparingly since it's high. So now that we have a general gameplay breakdown of Frost, let's take a look at some combos.
The chill. Freeze in hell. Freeze in hell!